following her hairline and we're doing back-to-back slices. That way she gets like the blonde money piece. I did 2 so far. I think now I'm gonna start doing baby lights and do fine weaves, and I'm gonna be following her hairline. All right, so I'm doing super tiny slices. So just the itty-bittiest little baby weave.
This time we're gonna do it for real.
I'm gonna leave this out for right now. We're gonna balayaging that in a second. So I start right here just to press the foil down, just normal Paul Mitchell way, and then I start feathering that little line in. I don't want a super harsh line, so feathering is definitely key, and then I'm just gonna coat the rest just like a normal weave. So I fold it in half. I don't want to squeeze right there because then it's going to make a line. And then I fold it again, and then I just curve it to the head, and that's how it holds. And then I just move on to this side. And I just do the same thing. When I get to here, I'm going to do the 2 slices, and then I will start recording again. Okay, so at the hairline, we have these little pieces where there's breakage, so I do a slice, don't do anything to it, and then the next little slice that I do, I weave. Then I'm gonna turn it around just a little bit. I want it to match up with her hairline, and I'm gonna turn it just a little bit there. So her hairline goes at this angle. So as soon as I get to where I can get that nice and tight right there, that's when I start doing the slicing. And then I'm gonna do 2 slicings, and then I'm gonna do 2 baby lights, and then that's when I'm finally gonna start spacing them out. Tiny little piece. You see how wispy this is? That is A-okay. We're only using 20 volume with old clips in it. So it makes it safe enough for those fine little hairline pieces. So now I'm going back to the top. I already did the sides, and I'm doing basically a 1/2-inch section, and then I'm skimming off this top. I'm gonna do 2 of those. So I'm on my second one right now. Fold it up. So these are my 2. So if you can kind of look, there's the section that I'm leaving out. So it's a nice 1/2 inch. Then I do the thin little baby light foil. I did 2 of those after I did the tiny little back-to-back foils. I'm gonna do probably 1 more. I'm just gonna make it just a tiny bit thicker. Whoops, the daisies. So then this one's just a tad bigger, so you can kind of see it. I'm gonna skim off the top, weave it. Make sure you pull those hairs down. So, put it on the ends, and then I redo the top, just barely feather that in. Fold again, make sure you're not pinching right there because you don't want to band. And I'm gonna do about like an inch. You can kind of see. And then I'm actually gonna do this weave just a tiny bit thicker. So instead of an 1/8 of an inch, this one's more like a 1/4. And I'm also not gonna do such a little tiny baby light as we go back. So that's the weave, you can kind of see it. Now it's more like a normal weave. Balayage, typically you're brighter by the face, and as you go back it goes a little bit darker, so that's why we have the transition. The ends, this one's another one of the inch ones. As you can see, we're going at an angle, so right through here, it starts getting smaller and smaller, so it's transitioning out. We're basically gonna do that until we hit the end. All the foils on the top, both sides. So now I'm just gonna fold these bad boys up so I can get to this side. We're gonna be doing basically 1/4 of an inch, 2 slices of 1/4 of an inch, and then after that 1 inch. And then we're gonna be weaving all the slices. We're gonna be balayaging with balayage lightener, everything else. We're just going back at a diagonal back angle through all of it. Because we know that diagonal back diffuses, it doesn't leave stripes, and it's not a sheath. So taking off the top, I'm also gonna be changing the way that I start to foil through right here. So through the top, it's a regular fine weave. Through here, I'm gonna do 1 thick piece, some little baby lights, and then another little thick piece. So it's almost like the V when you balayage with the little tiny baby lights in between to diffuse. So if you look at it, you can kind of see the thick piece, tiny weave through the middle. Okay, so with this one, we're gonna take it off the top again. Not quite as thin. It's about that thick. Probably like a 1/4 of an inch, just slightly bigger than 1/8 of an inch. So last time we did the 2 thicker pieces on the outside. So this time, I'm gonna leave a little piece, go in, do a thicker piece right here, weave, thicker piece right there, and then leave the end out. So you're getting a lot more brown. Can you kind of see that? So this is what it's gonna look like with the blonde. And then all you're doing is rotating between those 2 weaves. So what the foilage does is it makes it so you get those really, really bright pieces that have a lot of dimension. So then this one, now we're gonna rotate back like an inch away. You can see how thick that is. About that thick. This time we're doing a thicker piece. Weave, baby weave, then another thicker piece. So we're basically just taking this little bad boy out. And then you're left with this guy. You don't have to worry about getting too close because when we do our toning process, we're gonna actually go through and do a little root smudge. With this last little guy, I'm just gonna leave it for after I finish up my placement up here. So now you've seen the sides. So we do, first foil is a little tiny weave at the hairline. Then we do 2 of the foils that are slices, and we do 1/4 inch weaves. So we're leaving some out now. Then we go to 1/2 inch, then we go to 1 inch. And when we get to the 1 inch, that's when we change up the way that we foil. Okay, so looking at her hair, she has a crap ton of breakage. So I'm actually gonna start my foils a lot higher. So I'm probably gonna do like a good, probably 1/2 inch section if you look at it. So that's pretty thick. And then I'm gonna do what I did on the sides. I'm taking bigger chunk, weaving, little tiny weaves, and then taking another big chunk. And then when I go to the next one, I'm gonna rotate. So I'm gonna leave this part out, big chunk, weave, then take another big chunk, and then weave the other side out too. And then all of this, when I'm done, I'm gonna go through and balayage it. So it still gets lift and it still gets some lightness. Okay, so this is the opposite piece. So I'm gonna leave that chunk out, do a bigger, actually, let me think. Yeah, I'm gonna do a bigger piece, tiny little weave, big chunk, leave the other side out. So this bottom piece looks like that. You can kind of see the balayage V. And then this one looks like this. You can see it better with my glove underneath. So it's basically like bricklaying all of the balayage pieces, and I'm gonna be doing that up the head. And I'm actually leaving quite a bit of hair in between because I want a lot more dimension in the back. So that's about how thick my piece is. I'm gonna have you tilt your head like this. So it's probably just a little bit bigger than an inch. There we go. So I'm gonna be doing that all the way through the top. Okay, so now when we get to here, we're gonna change things up. So I'm gonna do a little slice here to here. And I might even just grab just a tiny bit of that. By might, I mean I am. Wait, there we go. Oh.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Like, thank you for doing it. Okay, so then this one is my last one, and I'm gonna do the big, teeny, 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 big. And it kind of goes into this little area, which makes it so it has a brick lay over both of those two. No, it's totally fine. So it has a brick lay between those two. And that's probably the only one I'm going to do it to. So then I'm just going to foil it like normal. Now, you saw the two parts that were split in the middle. I combined it. So it's just a diagonal back sectioning. So I took a horizontal line, and I'm going to do that weaving that I was doing before with the thick piece, tiny little weave, thick piece, and doing the bricklay pattern all the way up the back of the head. So I'm just going to be doing it horizontally up the back. Okay, so since we're getting whiter, this time I did it like a W. So it is thick right here, then I do a little tiny weave, thick in the middle, little tiny weave, and then thick on the end. It's kind of hard to tell because I don't have anyone to record, but you get the picture. We've been doing it basically on the whole head. So this time, thick, little weave, and then thick again. Next, I'll do just the two, so I'm just going to rotate between 2 and 3 now. So for this part, the parting's basically in a diamond. I forgot to explain that to you before. So we go from skinnier, getting to wider and wider, and then as you can see on this one, it's starting to get just a little bit skinnier. Next one will probably be the very last one that we do, leaving just this little piece right there, and that's going to have like a nice shadow effect over the top. When we do the toning, even though everything's really close to the root, we are still going to be doing slight shadow root, lifting it just a little bit. Doing a thicker section. You want to have very light hands because you're painting on the surface of the hair. Doing it in a V. Then when I get to the ends, that's when I'm starting to coat it off. I'm also going to do little brush strokes to blend it in. Another good tip to remember that the whiter it is, the brighter it's going to be. So if you really want something to be bright, then you got to coat it, make it white. Also, you need to lift up and look at the bottom of your section. You need to make sure that there are no spots coming through. You need to be just concerned about the bottom as the top with blending. So I'm going to take these two, balayage this bad boy, so I'm doing both of them at the same time. This one has a little bit more hair, so I'm going to do it in a W. Coming up through the middle. So you're just using really light feathering motions. I don't know if you can see it. So you can kind of see the W. We want those long streaks in there, that way we have depth in it. It's not just a flat surface with no depth. I'm literally just going to be doing that through the entire head.